How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin, Daf 70 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, where are we? Alright, we're on Daf Ayin, Daf 70. The first part of the Daf goes kind of quickly. I don't know, it's just kind of this technical stuff we've been doing recently. But the second half of the Daf doesn't go quickly. Now, it's not a particularly big second half of the daf, but BavaBasra, Ezu Neshech, Iska, Givaldig. BavaBasra, a league of its own. A league of its own. I still haven't gotten the confirmation if you agree with me. Okay, maybe I'm in a league of my own over here with BavaBasra, but anyways, so shtickle. I assume everybody's getting goosebumps. Very excited. Even just saying BavaBasra, all of a sudden nostalgia and all sorts of very bubbly feelings bubble up inside of us when we hear Ezu Neshech. All right, let's go. We're on Daf Samach Testament base of Masechta BavaBasra. 2 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Kol She'olin Lo Bachevel Have Shiur Kol She'ein Lo Bachevel Lo Have Shiur. Okay, so it says Rav. Okay, so this is talking about a scenario where somebody sold the field but not the trees. Okay, he keeps the trees for himself. He sells the field but not the trees. Now the thing is, insignificant trees, like little baby trees that are insignificant, would be included in the sale. Just the significant trees would be unincluded in the sale. So the question is, what's considered a significant tree? So it says, Amar Rav, Kol She'olin Lo Bachevel Have Shiur. So any tree that to get to the top, you have to use a rope to climb it. So then that would be a tree that is excluded from the sale. Kol She'ein Lo Bachevel Lo Have Shiur. But if get ready for a lot of negatives. But if you don't need to use a rope to get to the top, then it is not excluded from the sale. Lots of negatives. But anyways, basically, if you can get to the top without having to use the ropes, then it will be included in the sale. So there. It's good to put a positive spin on things. Makes it easier to think about. Okay. What's that? To reason? Is that what they say? Like in computer programming people, to reason about? I think that's like what they say. It's good. You want things to be simple, you know. If you can simplify things, that's good. But the Dayane Gola say, and we're going to learn in Masechta Sanhedrin and Daf Yud Zayin, where they explain, where the Gemara explains like lots of these kinds of things. Dayane Gola is Shmuel and Karne. Okay. Amre, they say, Kol she'ha'ol kovsho lo have shiur. Kol she'eina ol kovsho have shiur. Okay. If I understand correctly, so the yoke of a cow, I think, is like basically if you would have like 2 cows that were plowing, so they would be attached like by their necks with like a yoke, and that way they would be like aligned so that they can plow zusammen together. So if I understand correctly, basically like if there's a tree that gets in their way, so if the yoke would be able to sort of bend over the tree and they can go weiter, so then it would be considered an insignificant, I guess it would be an insignificant tree, in which case it would be included in the sale. But if they get to this tree and the yoke would not be able to just yoke through it, so then it's significant and it would be excluded from the sale. Right, so again, but the Anagola say, Kol she'ol kovsho lo have shiur. Any tree that the yoke would be able to like yoke it and go weiter, so then have shiur, then it would be lo have shiur. It would not be excluded, i.e., it would be included. Kol she'ein ha'ol kovsho. But if it's strong enough that the yoke would not be able to yoke it, so then it's significant, and have shiur, it would be excluded from the sale. Plige and Take Rav and the Dayane Gola do not argue. If we're talking about palm trees, then the criterion is whether you need a rope to climb to the top or not. If we're talking about just regular, I guess, other trees, So then we're talking about whether it gets yoked by the yoke or not. Alright. Bamine Rav Acha Bar Huna me Rav Sheshes. Rav Acha Bar Huna asks Rav Sheshes, Chutz me charuv ploni chutz misaden ploni mao. So we had said that if a person sells a field, so memele, a grafted carob tree or a pruned sycamore tree, so memele they are excluded. So now the seller says, let's say Shimon is selling to Reuven, so Shimon says, I'm selling you the field, and he specifies chutz me charuv ploni chutz me saden ploni, except for this particular grafted carob tree or this particular pruned sycamore tree. So it's kind of weird because he didn't need to, right? Anyways, all grafted carob trees and pruned sycamore trees are already excluded from the sale. And now he's saying this particular one, which is kind of interesting. Why is he pointing out this particular one? What about the other grafted carob trees? What about the other pruned sycamore trees? I would, right, by default, they're all going to be excluded from the sale, but now he's specifying one of them. So what is that? What's the implication for the others? So what's the halacha? Also, charvu de lo kani, hashach ruvim kani. Do we say, since Shimon is specifying this particular grafted carob tree, so only that particular one is excluded from the sale, and that Shimon is going to hold on to it and retain it, but all of the other grafted carob trees would be included in the sale? O Dilma, or perhaps Shachru Venami Lo Kani, or maybe Shimon specifying this particular grafted carob tree makes no difference practically, because at the end of the day, all grafted carob trees are excluded. So it's anyways excluded. And it doesn't change anything. All the other grafted carob trees are also excluded. So specifying this particular one makes no difference. Amarle lo kona. So Rav Sheshes responds, it makes no difference. Reuven is not kona the other carob trees. He specifies this particular. So by specifying this particular carob tree, it makes no difference. All grafted carob trees would be excluded. Fine. But Rav Acha Bar Huna asks a kasha on Rav Sheshes. Chutz me charuv ploni, chutz misadon ploni. We have a brisa that says that if Shimon sells Reuven a field, and he says, except for this particular grafted carob tree, or except for this particular pruned sycamore tree, lo kona. So Reuven is not kona. What does it mean he's not kona? My love, also charuv hu de lo kona. So Rav Acha Bar Huna wants to argue with that. What the brisa means is that particular grafted carob tree is excluded. Hashar Reuven kona, but Reuven is kona the other grafted carob trees. Now Rav Sheshes had said Reuven is not kona any of the grafted carob trees, even though Shimon specified one particular one. So Omar Lei, so Rav Sheshes responds, lo, no, afilu shach Reuven nami lo kona. No, when the brisa says that Reuven is not kona, it means he's not kona any of the grafted carob trees. Yo, chevra, oh my gosh, I got distracted because, oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like making salad before, and oh my gosh, there was like something in the lettuce. It was so gross. It kind of threw me off, and I was just remembering it. Sorry. Teda, and Rav Sheshes says, and I'll prove to you why I'm right. What if Shimon has a bunch of fields? Okay, what if Shimon owns a bunch of fields? Okay, and he says, I'm selling you, and Shimon says to Reuven, so I don't know, Shimon owns 8 fields, okay, and he says to Reuven, I'm selling you this particular field. And then he says, I'm selling you this particular field, chutz misade plonis, and I'm excluding, I don't know, one of the other 7 fields. Well, I mean, so Shimon is only selling one of the fields, and when he says that he's excluding one of the other fields, that's not to imply that all of a sudden all of the other 6 fields are also, meaning he's selling one, excluding another, there's 6 left. He's not saying that like all 6 of the other ones are now all of a sudden included. No, Shimon's still only selling the one that he's selling. Right? So again, if Shimon says to Reuven, I'm selling you this particular field, chutz misada plonis, then he says, and not this other field, but what about all the other fields that he owns? He who dilo kani ha achran yosa kani? What? Is Shimon only saying that the particular field that he excluded is excluded, but all the other ones are included? Of course not. Shimon is only selling the one field that he's selling. Elelo kana. Rather, he's not kona any of the other ones. He's only kona the one that Reuven is only kona the one that is being sold to him. Hachanami lo kona. And here also, when Reuven buys a field and memele, all of the grafted carob trees are excluded, and then Shimon says this particular carob tree is excluded, that doesn't come to say that all of the other carob trees all of a sudden are included in the sale. No, all carob trees are still going to be excluded from all grafted carob trees are going to be excluded from the sale. Vikad Amri, to those who say that the question was slightly different, but ultimately the flow is the same. Vikad Amri, those who say, Ba'amine Rav Acha Bar Huna Rav Sheshes, that what Rav Acha Bar Huna asked Rav Sheshes is, Chutzmi Chatzi Charuv Ploni, chutz mechatzi sadan ploni mao. Okay, what if Shimon didn't say except for this grafted carob tree? He said except for half of this grafted carob tree, or except for half of this pruned sycamore tree. Mao, what's the halacha? Okay, what's the halacha with vis-a-vis the other half of? Would the other half of the carob tree be included? Okay, so in this case we're saying, look, all of the other grafted carob trees or pruned sycamore trees are memele excluded, right? Shimon is selling Reuven the field. All grafted carob trees are excluded. Shimon then says, and I'm excluding half of this particular carob tree. So we're saying all the other carob trees are excluded. The half of this particular grafted carob tree that Shimon is excluding is also excluded. What about the other half of that particular carob tree? Okay, so Reuven is certainly not kona any of the other grafted carob trees. But also charuv kani. But do we say that Reuven would be kona the other half of the excluded half of a grafted carob tree? Or maybe Reuven is not even kona the other half of the specified grafted carob tree. So Rav Sheshes says, lo, koni. Rav Sheshes says that Reuven is not even kona the other half of the grafted carob tree. Okay. But Rav Acha Bar Huna then asks Ekasha, chutz mechatzi charuv ploni, that if Shimon specifies, I'm selling you the field except for half of this particular grafted carob tree, chutz mechatzi sadan ploni, or except for half of this particular pruned sycamore tree. Shar Reuven lo kona. Reuven is not kona the other grafted carob trees. My lab Shar Reuven hu de lo kona ha mashashir ba'osu charuv kona. So Rav Acha Bar Huna wants to imply that what this means is that the other grafted carob trees are excluded, but the other half of the specified grafted carob tree would be included in the sale. Omar le, Rav Sheshes responds, lo. No, afilu ma shashir ba'osu charuv nami lo kona. Rav Sheshes says, no, actually, even the other half of the specified grafted carob tree is also excluded from the sale. Teda, you should know, that if Shimon says to Reuven, I'm selling you this particular field, chutz mechatzi sadeh ploni, and also excluded is, and I'm excluding half of a particular field. So certainly, all of the other fields are also excluded, but what about the other half of this particular field? Hu de lo kana ha'idach kana. What is he saying? That he's only excluding this half of a field, but the other half he's including? Lo kani achanami lo kani. No, he's only selling that particular field. He's not selling any parts of any other fields. So here also, Shimon sells Reuven the field, but no grafted carob trees at all. Alright, that was exciting stuff, but Chevre, not as exciting as BavaBasra. Iska. Here we go. So now this next sugya, until we get to the next Mishnah, God willing, at the end of the daf, completely unrelated stuff. This is talking about pikadons, shomachinam, that kind of stuff, BavaBasra stuff that we love, that tickles our souls. And the reason why apparently it's mentioned is because we mentioned Dayone Gola, just like we had mentioned the Dayone Gola at the top of the Amud. But otherwise, it's just a BavaBasra transplant. Chavi, you ready? All right. I'm the suspense. I'm killing you. Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna go weiter. Bo mine, Rav Amram asks, Rav Chisda, Hamafkid eitzel chaveiro bishtar. Okay, so Shimon deposits Epis with Reuven. Shimon deposits Epis with Reuven, and it says bishtar, and he has Reuven write him a document that says that Reuven is custodianing Shimon's deposit. So now Shimon has a document that says that he has a deposit by Reuven, and of course he can collect it from Reuven. And Reuven says, I paid you back already. I returned you the deposit already. So now you have Shimon with a document that says that he is entitled to collect his deposit. Reuven is saying he already returned the deposit. Mao, what's the halacha? Mi amrinon, mi go de iboy omar ne'ensu mehemin hashtonami mehemin. Do we say that, well, Reuven is a shomer. Let's assume he's a shomer chinam. So Reuven is a shomer. Now, shomer chinam, also shomer sacher, but let's just say he's a shomer chinam. He would be a potter for onsen. Okay, if somebody came at gunpoint and stole the item, the deposit at gunpoint, Reuven is potter. So do we say that? So now Shimon is showing up with his document. The document is an important thing, right? He shows up with the document. 2 witnesses signed on it. Memele, Shimon, it's real. Shimon shows up with a document that says that he deposited something with Reuven. That's it. He deposited something with Reuven. He's entitled to collect it. But the thing is, Reuven, we can argue that Reuven isn't, so theoretically Reuven could say, Ones, it got stolen from me at gunpoint. In which case, he's not refuting the fact that Shimon has a document that says that, that he's entitled to collect a deposit. Reuven is not disagreeing with that. But what he is saying is that it got stolen at gunpoint and he's potter. And even though Shimon has a document, and yes, he's entitled in theory to collect the deposit is gone, and Reuven is potter for onsen. So now in this case, Reuven said, I already paid you back. So do we say, well, okay, if Shimon has a document that says that he has a deposit with Reuven is not believed without any witnesses, without anything, to simply say, I paid you back. It doesn't work like that. Shimon's got a document saying that he's entitled to collect the deposit. Reuven can't simply say, he's not believed to say, I paid you back. What he is believed to say is ones. What he is believed to say is that it was stolen at gunpoint. What he is believed to say is that he's potter for onsen. So do we say migo? Do we say granted that he's not believed to say I paid you back, but he is believed to say ones? And do we say migo that if he wanted to lie, he would have said ones, but he didn't say ones. He's telling the truth. He's saying I paid you back. So do we say migo di boy omer nen sumehemin hashanav meimin? Do we say that, well, if he would have said ones, if he would have claimed ones, he would be believed and he would be potter? So here oichet. If he wanted to lie, he would have said ones. But he didn't say ones. He said instead that he paid him back. So we should believe him that he paid him back. O Dilma, or perhaps Omar Lei Shtarcha Biyadi my boy. 1 second. I heard a little bit of noise coming from outside. Now I have my noise cancelling headphones in, Baruch Hashem. A big zchus to have noise cancelling headphones. But today I'm recording the daf now on Sunday. Sunday, I have no clue what's going to be this week. They say this week is going to be a whole thing with our enemies from the north. So this morning was when our enemies and that our enemies tried to attack us, and Hashem provided the Yidden with the IDF to protect us. But I just have to be careful because if there's a siren, so Mamela will have to move downstairs. So that's why I thought I just wanted to just be careful that there wasn't a siren. Al Koponim, wow, this is taking really a long time to lay down the foundations over here. So where are we? So Odilma, or perhaps Omarle, Shtarcha Biyadi my boy, Givaldig. Or does Shimon say, then why do I have a document? Reuven says, I paid you back. Shimon says, oh yeah, if you paid me back, then why do I have a document? If you paid me back, obviously you would say, all right, now let's tear up the shtar. Clearly, that never happened. So this is now a shayla of Malil l'shakir b'makom edim lo amrinun. Right? We learned about that. Right? Malil, I think in Cheskas Abatim, Malil l'shakir b'makom edim lo amrinun. Right? That meaning, the reason to say that we should believe Reuven is because of Malil l'shakir. If he wanted to lie, he would have said that it was ones. Therefore, he's saying that he paid him back. We could believe him. The thing is, that's a svara. We should believe him because. But that svara is up against Shimon's document. A document with witnesses that says that he's entitled to collect his deposit. We're not now going to come and say, yeah, but come on, we believe him because if he really wanted to lie, look, a svara against a document is nothing. So therefore, Malil l'shakir b'makom edim lo aminan. Right? So therefore, Shtarcha biyadi my boy. If in fact you pay me back, then why do I have this document? This document is saying that I'm entitled to collect from you. And it's stronger than your claim that you paid me back. That's the shayla. Omalei, so if Chizda responds, Mehemin, that Take, Reuven is believed to say that he paid back Shimon. My boy. But Rav Avram says, well, but what about Shtarcha b'yadi my boy? What about Malil l'shakir b'makom edim lo amrinun? So this is like an interesting dialogue that I don't fully get, arguably until the end. So Rav Chizda responds, and he says, I guess I think it makes sense in the end. But anyways, it's not very long. It's just like another line or two. Rav Chizda responds to Rav and says, okay, so Rav, you're making the argument that Shimon could say, Shtarcha b'yadi my have, right? Well, then why do I have this document? But Reuven would, everybody agrees, Reuven would be able to say, ones. Reuven would be able to claim ones, and he would be potter. What about the fact that Shimon has the document? It's irrelevant. Ones is a valid claim. So therefore, the same thing applies over here. That when he says that I paid you back, Shtarcha b'yadi my have is not doesn't make a difference. But I mean, the reason why I think it's weird is because but by ones it's not a problem of Malil l'shakir. It's right over here. It's Malil l'shakir. But okay. But let's go weiter for a second. Anyways, my boy, so Omar lay sof ki Omar lay nensu lav shvua boy. So Rav Am responds to it, but the thing is, if Reuven would claim ones, he would still have to swear that it was ones. He wouldn't just be able to say ones and all of a sudden he's believed. He would have to swear. So says Rav Chizda. Well, same thing over here. Hachanami, my neman b'shvua. Still, Rav Chizda says when I'm saying to swear. When I say that we believe him, to say that he paid him back, he's going to have to swear. So I think that's it. And I think that's why. I think the point is that he's swearing, and that's probably why it's not an issue of madul l'shakub makom edim lo amrinun. Meaning, if it was just a svara against a document, yeah, it wouldn't work. We would say madul l'shakub makom edim lo amrinun. But here it's a shvua, meaning we have a migo, right? He could have said ones, but he didn't. If he wanted to lie, he could have said ones, but he didn't. He said that he paid him back. And not only that, he's also swearing that he paid him back. So kilu madul l'shakir, I guess, plus a shvua, I guess would be able to withstand shtacha b'yadi, my boy. Okay. So we saw that machlokes between Rav Chizda and Rav Amram when there is a shtar regarding a deposit and the custodian says, I already paid you back. So do we believe the custodian or do we say, no, shtar b'yadi my have, we don't believe the custodian? Rav Chizda says we believe the custodian. Rav Am says we say shtar b'yadi my have. So now, my boy. Lema beplugta. So you can skip the Hani tonight because these aren't actually Tanoim. So lema beplugta. So let's say that this machloikes between Rav Chizda and Rav Amram is like the machloikes between Dayone Gola and Dayone Eretz Yisrael. Shtar kisayotze ala yisomim Dayone Gole Amre Nishba Vegove Kulo Dayone Eretz Yisrael Amre Nishba Vegove Mechto D'chule Alma Islu Dinar Doye Taminar Doye Isko Palga Milvo Palga Pikodin My Labok Milvo. So be'etzem, what happens is it was talking about Iska over here. Who wants to explain Iska? Who Neil of course has his sugya of Zanen of Zel Chaser. Whose sugya is Iska? Who's the one who says I just love Ezu Neshech? Who are you? Make yourself known, reveal yourself. Maybe you can explain this Gemara. Akoponim. So we're talking about a scenario where you have an investor and you have a guy. You have an investor and you have a guy. So Shimon is the investor, Reuven is the guy. Shimon invests $1,000. Reuven he's the guy. He's going to go and he's going to do everything and Bezer Hashem, Elfen, and he's going to make he's going to turn the $1,000 investment into $2,000, i.e. $1,000 profit. And Reuven and Shimon are going to split that profit 50-50. So on Shimon's investment of $1,000, he gets back $1,500. The shaila is, meaning he invests $1,000, he gets back $1,500, so he makes a profit of $500, and Reuven also makes a profit of $500. The shaila is, how can you do that with it not being interest, right? Because if Shimon loans Reuven $1,000 and then he's getting paid back $1,500, then he's making interest on the loan. It's a $1,000 loan, he's getting paid back $1,500. It's interest. So now the other option would be for Shimon to deposit the money with Reuven, which means that Shimon accepts all of the risk, which means that if anything happens to it, so then Shimon loses everything. So, okay, there wouldn't be an issue of ribis, but why would it's too much risk. Shimon's not going to be willing to do that. So the best balance, essentially there's other details, but the best balance would be that it's considered half a loan and half a deposit. Okay? Shimon invests $1,000 with Reuven. Okay? Shimon invests $1,000 with Reuven. Half of it is a loan. half of it's a deposit. So if it gets lost or something happens, so Reuven is going to have to return the half that's a loan. It's a $500 loan. He has to return the $500 no matter what happens. But in terms of the deposit, if it was ones, so he's going to be potter. He doesn't have to pay back Shimon for the deposit if anything happens. So now Reuven goes out. He does his magic. The $1,000 becomes $2,000. $1,000 of profit. So in that case, Shimon gets paid back his deposit plus half of the profit, and he also gets paid back the loan from Reuven. So he ends up getting back his he gets back his $1,000, $500 loan, $500 deposit, plus $500 from the profits, which is connected his $500 deposit. And Reuven pays back the $500 loan, and he also can then keep the other $500 of profit. And the point of all that being that Shimon had invested $1,000 with Reuven. Half of it was a loan, half of it was a deposit. Reuven then died. Shimon now says, what am I going to do about my $1,000 that I invested with him before he died? Shimon now has to work with the Yisomim, with the orphans, with the estate. So now, of course, the loan he's entitled to get paid back, right? If Shimon were to have lent $1,000 to Reuven and Reuven dies, so Shimon he swears that he was never paid back, and he can collect from Nechasim Meshubad, from Nechasim Sheish Lamachrayis, Karka. So, okay. So in this case, it was half a loan, half a deposit. So the half that's a loan, Shimon can get paid back, can make that claim. But what about the half that was a deposit? What about the half that was a deposit? Do we say that, well, if Reuven was still alive, he could theoretically say it got lost and he would be potter from having to pay it back? So therefore we should make that taina for the Yisomim, and they would not have to pay back the half that's a deposit, right? And that would be like Rav Chizda. Or do we say that he wouldn't have been able to, say that, well, he would have been able to say it got lost, but he wouldn't have been able to make the claim that, well, since I could say it got lost, I could also say I paid you back, right? So therefore we wouldn't make that claim for the orphans, and therefore they would have to pay back Shimon for the $500 that's a loan as well. So the shaila is, do we say like Rav Chizda, that since the father would have been believed to say that I paid you back, so then we would make that taina for the Yisomim? Or do we say like Rav Amram, that we would be unable to make that claim because Shimon has a document about the Iska? So here we go. So now, so let's say that this machlokes between Rav Chizda and Rav Amram is like the following machlokes with regards to this document of this Iska between Shimon and Reuven died. Shtarkis ayotze al Yisom. So you have this Shtarkis, which I guess I assume is just this like Iska document. So Shimon has this document that says that Be'etzim he invested $1,000 with Reuven. $500 of it was a loan. $500 of it was a deposit. So Dayoni Gola Amir Nishba V'Go V'Kulo. So Dayoni Gola said that Shimon can swear that this was the case, that there was $1,000 investment, $500 loan, $500 deposit, and he can collect all of it. The Dayoni Eretz Yisrael Amrei, whereas the Dayoni Eretz Yisrael say that, and the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that that's Rav Ami and Rav Asi, that Nishba V'Gove Mechza, that Shimon can only collect half of the investment, i.e. the half that is a loan he can recoup, but not the half that is a deposit. And everybody agrees with Nardoi, the Amri Nardoi, Hai Iska, that when it comes to an Iska, Palga Milve, Upalga Pikorin, half of the investment is considered like a loan, the other half is considered like a deposit. So my love, let's say that the machlokes between Dayon Egol and Dayon Eretz Yisrael is the following. Everybody agrees that Shimon can recoup the loan. The question is, what about the 500? That's a deposit. The Marsover Motzi Amrle Shtarcha B'Yadi Mai Boy, that the Dayon Gola hold like Rav Amram, that Shimon can say, well, I have this document if your father would have paid me back, why, then we would have done something about the document. And therefore he can claim all of it. U'mar lo amri. Whereas Dayane Eretz Yisrael say he can only collect half because Shimon can't make the argument about shtarcha b'yadei my ba'i, and therefore Shimon is only entitled to collect the half that's a loan, but he's unable to collect the half that it was a deposit. No, d'chulam islu de Rav Chisda. Everybody holds like Rav Chisda that the father would have been able to claim, I paid you back, so therefore we would be towing for the Yisomim that, everybody agrees that the father would be able to say, I paid you back. Since he could say that the deposit got lost, he can also say, I paid you back. But the machlokas over here is, to my sover im isa deproi, memar ava omar, that if so, that Reuven really did pay back Shimon, he would have told the Yisomim. And therefore, since he didn't tell the Yisomim, we are not going to all of a sudden right, because we have a concept, Ta'aninan liyasmi, right? Ta'aninan lilokeach, v'ta'aninan liyorshin. So generally, we try to make whatever claims we can on behalf of the heirs. But in this case, we're not going to make the claim that Reuven paid back Shimon, because if Reuven did in fact pay back Shimon, he would have told them on his deathbed. But he didn't, so we're not going to make the claim for them. Whereas Dayane Eretz Yisrael will say that Shimon can only collect the loan but not the deposit, because maybe Reuven really did pay back Shimon, but he got the Malach HaMavis paid him a visit before he had an opportunity to tell anybody. But we will be towing on behalf of the Yisomim, and Shimon won't be able to collect the part that's a deposit. Okay, fine. So be'etzim we say that everybody really does hold like Rav Chisda, that we would believe the custodian. Okay. Shalach Rav Huna sent to the yeshiva. Shalach Rav Huna bar Oven, Amafkid Eitzel Chavero Bishtar. Alright, so if Shimon deposited with Reuven and there was a document, V'omar lo echzartiv l'cha, and Reuven says, I already returned it to you, Ne'eman, Reuven is believed, like Rav Chisda. Okay. V'shtar kis hayotze al ha-yisomin, nishba v'gova kulo. And yet, says Rav Huna bar Oven, that when you have this document, right, Shimon invested $1,000 with Reuven died, so Shimon can collect all of it, which would imply that he can collect all of it because their father, Reuven, when he was alive, would have been unable to make the claim that I paid you back, and therefore Shimon can collect all of it. So, Tarte, we're saying two things that contradict each other, right? On the one hand, we're saying that Reuven is believed to say that he paid back Shimon, and yet we're saying that when Reuven dies, Shimon can collect all of it because Reuven would not have been able to make the claim that he paid back Shimon. So shiny awesome demisa the pride memer ava omar. Well, it's different when Reuven had died in terms of making the claim on behalf of the Yisomim, because there we don't assume that Reuven did in fact pay back Shimon, since if he did, he would have told somebody. All right, he would have told them on his deathbed. Rav Amar says, Rav Nishba v'gove mechzas. Rav says that the halacha is that Shimon swears that he's owed the money, and he can only collect half of it. The half that is a loan, not the half that was a deposit. Mazutra says that the halacha is like Dayane Gola, that Shimon can collect all of it. So Ravina says to Mazutra, wait, why would you say that he can collect all of it if Rave, because it shows you the cheshivus of Rave, if Rave said that Shimon can only collect the half that's a loan, not the deposit half. So if Rave says it, we should hold like Rave. So Marzutra says, Onan Dayane Gola Ipcha Masninale. Well, I agree with Rave that Shimon can only collect half. Just I switched around the Dayane Gola and Dayane Eretz Yisrael. I held that Dayane Gola say that Shimon can only collect half, which is essentially the same thing as what Rava is saying. Cheve, wow, givaldig. So we learned Daf Ayin and Masechet BavaBasra. At the beginning we talked about technical stuff about selling fields, but then we got back to Bava Metzia, to Ezu Neshech. We talked about deposits. We talked about Shimon and leaves a loan deposit with Reuven, and he has a document, and Reuven says, I've returned it to you. Rav Chisda says he's believed. Rav Amram says he's not believed. We tried to tie it in to machlokes with regard to Isko from Ezu Neshech, and to say that it's like the same machlokes, but we say no, everybody agrees with Rav Chisda that the custodian is believed to say that he returned it, since he because we say migo, he would have to swear though that he's telling the truth. And okay, and we say that if you have like a heter iska document by Yisomim, so the investor can only collect the half that is a loan pisa.